This video is brought to you by my two books, Practical Music Theory for the Rock Guitarist and The Blues Guitar Bible. Want to learn about modes, harmonies, scales, chord substitution and keys? Or maybe you're interested in supercharging your blues guitar rhythm and lead chops. Whatever you're interested in, I guarantee you will be hitting the fast lane to progress with either of these works. Both feature video demonstrations and tutorials, loads of tabs and jam tracks to play along with, and I promise you, everything is explained in crystal clear plain English. Check out the links in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. As you know, these days, Mondays on this channel are all about a blues guitar lesson one week and then a melodic rock lesson the following week, and we alternate back and forth like that. This week, it's the turn of melodic rock, and if there is one particular sound, one flavour that always, for me, conjures up the best of 70s melodic rock, it's this. So yes, the old twin lead guitar or even three-part guitar harmonies that were just everywhere in the 70s, not just on the albums of people like the Allman Brothers, Thin Lizzy, Wishbone, Ash, Queen and all of the usual suspects, but it also fed through in, top 40 pop. ABBA, one of their songs, was it Knowing Me, Knowing You, has a little harmony guitar part on there in between the verses, and what was that song by Suzi Quatro? Can't remember what it was. If You Can't Give Me Love, I think that's the one. Yeah, harmony guitar parts all over that. It's just a characteristic of that period. I grew up and cut my musical teeth as a listener during those formative years of the 70s, so it's got a soft spot in my heart, that particular sound. So I thought what I'd do today is a video on the topic of harmony guitar parts. Not for the first time, it has to be said. I have covered this multiple times before, but I'm going to go into a little bit more depth in this video, so strap in. Here's some information on how you do it.
Here is the explanation.
Okay, the first harmony that I play on this particular tune is right on the intro where we've got a bar of G, bringing us in as like an intro. So I use G major pentatonic there, or if you prefer E minor pentatonic. Here's an obvious pattern for it up at the 12th fret. Now, a very neat little trick that you can employ with pentatonics is you got to know your 5 different pentatonic boxes for this, but you should know those anyway. Is you can go either up or down to the next but one pattern. So for example, if I'm in pattern 1 here, then I know that pattern 2 starts on the second note of pattern 1. And pattern 3 starts on the second note of pattern 2. Right, so what I can do there is any little moves that I make in pattern 1, if I mirror those moves in pattern 3, like that, it will automatically harmonise beautifully. So whatever you're doing in pattern 1, skip over pattern 2 and go to pattern 3, like that, and just do those same moves relative. So, you know, thinking just if we were to just kind of come down the scale in pattern 1, come down the same relative steps in pattern 3, and you'd have the same thing. It also works in reverse. So in pattern 1, I would come down to pattern 5, and then down from pattern 5 to pattern 4. So anything I do in pattern 4 will automatically harmonise with what I'm doing in pattern 1. So pattern 1 goes up to pattern 3 or goes down to pattern 4. Likewise, pattern 4 would go down to pattern 2, and you know, and pattern 2 would go down to pattern 5, or the same in reverse going up. Here's just me demonstrating that by playing a little kind of motif in pattern 1 up here and then going to pattern 3 up here. You'll see both guitars on screen and you'll hear that it does indeed harmonise beautifully. So there you go, that's using the pentatonic scale to create harmonies. We can also get a little bit more, dare I say it, theory-centric by looking at, you know, the overall major scale that a piece of music, or major or minor scale, that a piece of music is based around, and creating harmonies with that. So here's how that works. Okay then, so the chord sequence that the tune is played over can be seen here. C, E minor, F, D minor, C, G, A minor, G. All of those chords come from the key of C major, so the C major scale is the appropriate scale to start building a melody and whatever harmonies from. The basic point that I've made many times now when we're coming up with any kind of melodic guitar part is stick closely to the actual chord tones. You know, if you know what notes are in a C chord, it's actually C, E and G, then a prominent note in this bar, because a melody is basically made up of two types of note, long ones and short ones, notes which last for a while and notes which are just sort of connecting you to the next long one. You know, if you know that the kind of notes in a C major chord are C, E and G, then you want to be emphasizing either a C note, an E note or a G note over that chord there. Likewise, when we get to the F chord, the notes in that chord are F, A and C. Okay, so, you know, a D note wouldn't sound particularly strong over that chord. It's not a wrong note, it's in the scale, but it wouldn't sound as good as an F, an A or a C, which are actually the notes in the chord. So I've talked about this many times. I'm not going to go into too much detail with it here, but that's basically what's going on in terms of creating a melody. Now, to create a harmony, the simplest way to do it is in thirds. So essentially, we take that C note, and let's kind of just put these in here, these little connecting tie rods, if you like. There we go. A C note, we pair that up with the third note of the scale, which you can see is E. The third note up the scale from D is F, and so on. So you're just going to the next but one note up the scale each time in order to create the harmony part. Okay, so what that means is that whenever you play in the melody part an E note, the harmony note to that E will be a G, and so on. So this is what thirds look like, and this is indeed what many harmonizer functions on guitar multi-effects, or, you know, there was the Boss Harmonist pedal a few years ago, wasn't it? About 30 years ago, dear me. That's what that will do. You set it to whatever key you're in, and you set the interval to thirds, and it will create a perfectly tracked harmony like this. But that leads to a problem, you see. So, for instance, the notes in an E minor chord are E, G, and B. Okay, so if I take the B note, if the B note is the melody at that particular point in the over the E minor chord, it's one of the notes that's in the chord, it will sound fine. And if we harmonize that B note, we get a D. Okay, and therein lies the problem, because, as I say, this chord here is an E, a G, and a B note. There is no D note in there, right? So if you put, if the harmony of the note that you're playing takes you outside the chord, we need to trim for that. And basically the way we do it is to do this. Let's put another row of connecting rods in. There we go. And what we do is we go up one more scale step. So F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so you can see there in our hypothetical situation where we've got an E minor chord, once again notes in that chord E, G and B. If you're prioritizing or emphasizing the B note as part of your melody, okay, that's going to work because it's in the chord. But the harmony for that B note is a D that's not in the chord. It will not sound as strong. So what we do is, instead of at that point harmonizing in thirds, we harmonize in fourths. It's called fourths because each one of these notes is 4 scale steps above each one of these notes. Okay, so when you harmonize outside, when the harmony note takes you outside the chord, not for every note that you're playing in the melody, but just for that kind of prominent, noticeable long note. Any melody is, as I say, just a combination of long lasting and shorter notes. The longer notes need to be part of the underlying chord, and so do the harmonies of those longer notes. And when your harmony takes you outside the chord, then you just bump that harmony note up one scale step from being a third to being a fourth, and that's one way that you can harmonize. Let's do the C major scale again, because I'm going to show you another way that you can harmonize. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and back to C again. Once again, let's put some little connecting rods in to join the notes up with their harmonies, and there we go. So what we're going to do this time is use sixths. Okay, so if we count the C note as note 1, okay, we go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so A is note 6, and that means that when we have a C note in the melody, we're going to harmonize it with an A, and then D gets paired up with B, and E gets paired up with C, and so on. All I'm doing here is going up the scale from the A note, so every note is going to be 6 steps above the its counterpart in the melody. There we go. And there it is. So what we've got here now are sixths. Okay, bit of a wider sounding harmony. Sixths, they just sound to my ear a little bit more majestic. A good indicator, or a good example rather, of where you'll find sixths is on the intro to Waiting for an Alibi by Thin Lizzy. I haven't recorded this part of the video yet, but I suspect I will also be referencing that song earlier on in this video. Right, so once again, we have any time like your chord note is is harmonized and it takes you outside the scale. So for example, we might be going for a G note over the G chord, right? Okay, now when you harmonize that G note, that in sixths, the harmony that you get is an E note. And we have a similar problem again, because a G chord, G major chord, has the notes of G, B and D. The D note, the G note, is in the chord. Obviously it's the root note of the chord, and we can harmonize that in sixth and get an E. The E note is not in the chord. Remember, a G chord is the notes of G, B and D. There's no E note in there. It won't sound wrong, okay, when you do this. If you harmonize outside the chord, it won't sound catastrophically bad. It just won't sound particularly strong and melodic. It dilutes the melody rather than reinforcing it, which is what we're trying to do by playing a harmony. So what we do under this circumstance is, instead of using sixths, we use fifths. So count C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth note of the scale is G, and then we just go up the scale from that starting point. There we go. F, G. There we go. Right, so that, let's put this in here, that these are fifths. When we harmonise a G note in sixths over a G chord, it gives us an E. E is not part of the chord, but the fifth, the D note, is. So once again, this is something that harmonizer effects pedals can't, because they don't know the chord sequence. They don't know what chord you're playing over. They just say, okay, my little dials and menus have been set to the key of C major, and the interval has been set to sixths. So when I hear a G note, I'm going to generate an E note to sit on top of that as the harmony. It doesn't know that that E note isn't part of the chord, but you know, a real world guitar player will know that and trim accordingly to adjust the sixth to a fifth, so it sits nice and you know, what would we call it? Pleasantly. I can't think of a better word for it, but it just sounds nice and strong and pleasant within the context of that chord. So the two ways that guitar harmonies tend to be created using this major scale method is with thirds, and when you need to just trim it to fit the chord tones, you make that third into a fourth or sixths, and when you need to just kind of adjust to take account of the chord, it becomes a fifth. As I say, you don't do this for every note in the melody that you're harmonizing, just the prominent ones, just the ones that seem to be like the cornerstones of the melody, the main chord tone in any given bar. Just adjust for them like this, and that is how you can create twin lead guitar harmonies using the major scale. So there you go, pentatonic and major scale harmonies. The pentatonic thing, by the way, you will find a great example of that on the second half of the solo from Thin Lizzy's Waiting for an Alibi. You know, pentatonic harmonies, major scale harmonies, thirds, sixths, using the fourths to kind of make the thirds tuck into the chord a little bit more effectively, and using fifths to do it with the sixth harmony. That's all you need to know about creating guitar harmony parts. Now you know what to do. Go away and have some fun with it. And as always, you'll find a full tab for that piece of music that we heard earlier in both Guitar Pro and PDF formats, along with a backing track to play along with, and that explanation you've just seen there. And all of that is as usual, and the clip of me playing it, by the way, as well. All of that is up on my Patreon page. There's the address, link in the description. As I'm sure you know by now, $3 or about £3 a month gets you access to all of these additional goodies and resources that go along with these YouTube videos. And of course, a massive thank you to everyone who supports me in that or any of the other ways, all of which are down in the description. And if you like that harmony guitar thing, then go and check out the links to my new album, which are also down in the description, because there's quite a bit of harmony guitar kind of splattered all over that new offering that I've just put out. But that is the video for today, folks. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful and informative and hopefully entertaining in some small way. And if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so, and why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. Don't forget, of course, the live stream every Friday 5 PM UK time, where we just have a beer and a chat. Basically, it's beer and gossip, beer and chat, beer and talk on a Friday. It's a great way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.